Everybody, finally got it working. I think the stream's set up relatively okay now as well. Nothing too special, but what is special is when we go into our player.cs script, C# script, you're going to see it load up, including IntelliSense, which I need. I mean, still be prepared. I'm not knowing what I'm doing anymore in this. I've forgotten. Resizing is fine. That's good. That all works. Let's get rid of all this rubbish. I'll leave us with the boilerplate that they give you for free. I've already broken convention there. That should have had a capital letter. I'm going to delete this script. Okay, I'm skipping frames. That's not handy, but it shouldn't matter too much. Delete this. Now, what used to annoy me in Unity, just a minor niggle, is when you delete this, yeah, you still get that problem that missing script. I guess there's a reason for that, just so that you know you've deleted it. We'll just handle player movement in its own script for now. And I'll create a folder in my project just called player or FPS player. And actually, I'm deleting that script one more time. This is how I make scripts. I don't like doing it the way I just showed you. I go into the place where I want it to be stored. And I create a new C# script. And this time I'm going to call it FPS player as well. So it's going to be a specific first person player. He's already there, obviously. He has a collider and a rigid body. I've messed this up again, so you just remove the component. You could have sorted it out another way, but then I can drag it to the exact game object I want it to be attached to. I can open it from there. So I want to create movement. I'm getting a lot of missed frames. I'm reckoning it doesn't really matter. It's better to have a higher resolution and drop a couple of frames, I would say. If it keeps happening, lower the frame rate. So I used to just delete them. But, oh look, it's not blue again. Yeah, it's just changed. You used to be able to get a tooltip about everything as well, which was really, really good. Oh, that's got a tooltip, look. UNT001, the Unity message start is empty. So, just want to see if that got rid of that message. Yeah, it did. I don't know what all this is about, this grey thing. I've never seen them. Anyway. So how best to move our object? At the moment I just want to do WASD to go forward, backwards, and then sidestep left and right. I have a rigid body, so I want to use the physics engine to do this, which is actually a drawback. It gives you loads of great advantages straight out of the box, but things like what I was saying about the collision detection become much more of a pain. So you'll rely a lot more on their own collision detection. You can add your own on top, but you'll have to bear in mind that theirs is also running. I mean, you can turn it into being just a trigger here, down here, somewhere around here is trigger, and that way that would actually you'd be able to just implement all your own collisions. You'd still have the gravity and other forces. Certainly I'm missing a lot of frames. Bugger. I can't remember the best way I used to move it, but we'll basically want a reference to our rigid body, and what I used to do is actually create it in the start method so that I didn't have to create it in what's called the inspector on the right hand side, but I've created it already in the inspector, so we'll just get the reference to it. You have to specify what the type of thing is. That's it. Rigid bodies, they have their own set of properties. My computer's really slow. They haven't actually got that many properties, they've got functions, but as you see, velocity, look, for example. So I could automatically cache the velocity if I wanted to there, but that's how you do that, by using the dot after them brackets. Alright. So with our rigid body, we'll create, this will be private. It's just a reference anyway. And the reason you want to care about doing that is, I mean, it's private by default anyway, but if you make it public, it will appear in the inspector as a property, which I'll show you now. So call it walk force. We'll set it to 0 by default, which is stupid really. Oh, of course you need a type. It's a float. And I think in C# you need to do 0.0f from memory with floats. Sorry. Alright, so that doing that 0 is just to demonstrate to you this is what Unity really intends you to do. I guess I'm just going to have to stop closing down code every time, Studio, or getting into the habit of doing that, I guess. So now walk force is there, see, as a public property. So I'll put 8. Now this copy of this script has walk force at 8. If I was to add it to another object, it would still have 0. That's going to get annoying having to click that every time to open that back up. See, these tooltips are amazing. There's a better way of doing it than just get key like this. You can set up an input like axis and everything with names. I think I'll go ahead and do that. I'll try and remember how to do that. Get axis. Oh, it is. And is there get button? Yeah, there is. Right, that's simple then. Is that get button by name? Yeah. So I'm going to use their get axis function, which enables me to name an axis somewhere and bind it to more than one thing. So I can bind it to like the joystick axis as well as the W. I can create an axis with W and S. So I normally use a constants file that will contain all these strings, but I'm just going to use the string. Sometimes they've already made them for you. Let's just quickly look. Annoyingly, you can't see this window now. I might just do a full display, but then I get my taskbar on the bottom. Oh, that's no good. I have to sort that out. Chat box. Why can't I change the alignment of it? Oh well, whatever. Don't really matter. I'm going to go for that instead. I'm going to change. Wrong one. Okay. So now you can at least see the options and that. You get my taskbar as well, but tough luck. There's somewhere in here, inputs, it's all changed around since I've last been here. Don't know why they do that. Why have they changed that? It was perfect where it was. Here we go, input manager. Why couldn't I find that before? Okay. So the size is just, axes are just an array, and it's a fixed size array. So you can add and remove these. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Take it down to 5, just to make it simple. So as we can see here, horizontal is already bound to left and right, and then alternative A and D. So what I just did was remove joystick support because there was other ones in there also called horizontal that had joystick settings down here, but I'm not going to use joystick right now. So I don't have to change anything, I just have to remember the name horizontal for left and right. Vertical, already set up. Even fire 1, left control. Obviously I can modify all them, but basically horizontal and vertical are all I care about right now. I've found from experience it's better to do movement code in 2 separate bursts of vertical and horizontal. So okay, what have I just done there? I've gone into the input method class, and inside that class it's got a getAxis method, and that returns a float. So I've just called a method that returns a float and done nothing with it. But what I want to do is I can just put float v equals that. Now I don't know why there's no delta time. There used to be a delta time up there, I think, because you'll have to times that by. Well, I'm doing a walk force anyway. I'm not doing speed, so I don't need to worry about delta time. I'm using gravity, the physics engine, which takes that into account already. But normally you'd have a float of delta time there, I believe. That was there by default normally when I last used Unity. There's probably another way of accessing it now. I used to think it was annoying. It was a parameter rather than an accessible field. Yeah, time but delta time. Read only. I think that's all we need to do. If we were doing it without, if we're doing our own movement code, that is. I'll do float h equals input dot getAxis horizontal. Okay, so we just have the raw input from the keyboard there, and it goes between minus 1.0 to 1.0 is the scale. So to move him, really it's just as simple as doing transform dot Rigidbody, sorry. Oh, and it doesn't like it yet. I remember you do have to do transform for some reason. Oh, hang on, no, you don't. That's rubbish. You do RB dot. It's meant to be a force. Add force. There we go. As you can see, there are more complicated versions as well, which are useful. I did get a lot of use out of these, but right now I'm not remembering. And torque is rotation, and obviously a force at position is if you're moving this object, and the force comes from like the back or whatever. We're just doing it right from the center. And as you can see, we could just do just a force. There's 4 different overrides for this method. It's not going to let me cycle through them because it's a pain in the rear end. Here we go. So the force mode is there's an enum, and an enum is just a list of different things, and basically they're different types of force. Then you can also, instead of just adding a vector 3, you can do it with floats instead. Same thing. And that's what we're going to want to do. Now the Z axis points straight ahead in this game engine. So to move him, we want our vertical amount on the Z axis. So it really is that straightforward. Times walk force. He should be able to walk forward and backwards now. I used to do force mode dot impulse for my walking. That might be wrong or right, but that's just showing you how to use that enum parameter. Enum's like a public enum that you can access. I don't really remember how exactly that works. It's just part of the Unity game engine, look. And it's basically just saying, look, 1. It's just, you could probably just put 1 there, but I'm not going to. Let's just do the same thing for left and right. That'll be on the X axis. Alright. I shouldn't have closed that because it's going to take an eternity to reopen. I might just make this ground bigger just so we can see into the horizon like that. Just double check it is attached and he's at 8 walk force. We should be able to walk around. And we can, but as you can see he's rolling all over the place and he's moving way too quick. There's lots of reasons for that. I'm starting out as a complete beginner, even though I do have a lot of, I've made web games and everything on this. They were always buggy, but they worked. Do you know what I mean? But at the moment, I'm going making all the mistakes I was making many years ago. What I've done there is I've applied it every frame, and I've got no maximum velocity. So I probably want to apply it every frame, but I want to come up with a way. This should be called. So even the hotkeys have changed. There used to be Control R used to be a refactor. Where do I type the new name? That should be called acceleration. Oh, I remember how it works. I don't. Oh god, I pressed the wrong button completely there. Alright, it worked, but it felt horrible compared to how it used to work. Like when I last used it. Maybe it's because I've got a really slow computer now, I don't know. Anyway, so I've changed that to Excel, and we'll have a max. It's probably a constant. It's probably best. Can't remember how you declare a constant properly in C#. I've called it max magnitude. Doesn't like that. Oh, of course I haven't even put the. I think that's right. Max magnitude, I'm basically meaning max velocity, but I'm reminding myself that there's a thing called magnitude that you have to use to find that. Because this has caused me major problems. I used to write a really long-winded version of doing this, and then I found out there was a much quicker way. I wonder if I'll be able to do it again. But there's a way of getting the magnitude anyway, so of your vector. Actually, I don't know if I need that. rb.velocity. Yeah, see, that's a vector 3. I want a float of speed, but there's no rb speed. I think it's magnitude. Doesn't look like it. Oh. There we go. There we go. Returns the length of this vector. So that's our speed right there. That is less than max magnitude. Okay. That might work. It might not. That that seems simpler than when I remember it, or how I remember it. But there was another problem. Oh yeah, so that was the problem one, potentially addressed. And then you have to freeze the rotation when you're using forces. I think that's the best way of sorting it, or the only way I can think of. Right, he's not moving now. Okay, there's 2 audio listeners. I hate getting warnings, so I'm going to deal with that, which is just to delete the main camera, because they come with an audio listener built in. I could have just deleted that, but well, here we go about debugging. I've got to try and remember how to do that. I can't quite remember how to do that even. There's just like a little, you can write a message in there somehow. I think you can just, as long as you start with a string. What's it keep? Autocomplete is killing me right now. Moving plus RB velocity dot magnitude. So we should get a message whenever I hold the key. Yeah. Well, actually, even when I'm not holding the key. It's not moving. I am getting the debug message though, constantly. Here, look. 0 magnitude. Perhaps I just need a bigger force. Oh, Excel's gone down to 0 because I changed its name. Let's put 100 just to make sure we'll move. Oops. And there we go. Oh, something weird happened. Too much force. Now, it's a bit of trial and error sometimes because we've got the acceleration there. We've got a max speed constant, but we've also got a mass here and drag, but don't really touch them much. So it's funny, in some instruction guides in Unity, especially in the old days, they tell you to try and match up mass and everything to be a real value, but there are maximum values it can handle. I've seen lots of other tutorials saying they leave everything at 1. So why did he go flying? There's too much force there. Look, he's moving, skidding along. I'm just touching the key for a second. It's nice though. It's got a bit of inertia just built in. You know, it's working nicely that already. And actually, the top speed is working. I think the force puts him over the top speed, and that's why you get a delay between. I don't know why I've done 0.9, not 1, but still doing it. So I'm going to make his constant a bit faster. That's going to be too fast, I reckon. Maybe it'll be just right. Oh, it's taking me too long. I probably just stopped it. It's already quite a bit better. Weird that left and right doesn't work. It says it is when you're moving down here. He's not moving an inch. That's definitely why we want to separate it, because we want to be able to move left and right independently. And this is far from perfect what I'm doing here. I'll probably have to start reading up myself again, but it will come back to me. I mean, obviously the magnitude ain't going to change. That's another thing that's a bit confusing. Because if you're already going full speed forward, you can't go left. Try that, it might make it a bit better actually. Oh, I've closed it again, what an idiot. Backwards and forwards works fine. Ah, look, when you're moving left, it's almost as if the force needs to be much, much more for the left and right. I don't remember that being the case though. But eventually, pretty soon, we'll add in our player folder here, like a mesh, skeletal mesh, and then from that you can find animation files that have him holding a gun. You attach a game object that's invisible, tells the gun where to spawn, and I was doing all of that. It was quite easy actually. I never got it looking perfect, but I mean, I'm going to try just highlighting that, copying that out. Oh god, I can't, I don't even know how to. Oh no, I've forgotten how to do it on here. I'll have to look that up as well. I need that. Control Shift A. Well, that's all. That'll do. It's getting clever though. It didn't. It's instantly told me V isn't in use now. As soon as I commented that out. Oh, did I? No, I did put H. My mind's blowing with that already. I keep saving it out of habit. Yeah, now it works. So it needs more force to go left and right. That's new to me. I didn't know that. He doesn't stop quite as I would like. I'd like him to slow down a little bit quicker. We're going to need some scenery in the game so that we can actually look around in a minute. So we'll just dump some cubes. Dump some cubes around. Put that there. Duplicate that. Oh, there, that'll do. So if I include that now, where's code gone? I thought I kept that open. I can see I do miss a lot of frames here. I think it's going to be alright though. 15%, not too bad on code. I must admit, I'm struggling to see why you need it to go more to the left, more force to the left and right than you do forward and backwards. Whoa. Oh, the force mode impulse thing. Let's try to get rid of that then. That's better. He needs something to slow him down. It's drag, or extra drag. See, that's what I mean. It does slow down, so there is drag, but they mean something else by drag on this. What they basically mean is that's a drag on all forces that get applied to it. But it will slow him down quicker. Not quick enough there. I'm also gonna show you, which another thing I can't remember, but there's a way of making this constant also visible in here. I think you put serialize field. Try that, and that can be put. I like having it there actually. Didn't show up. It's something like that anyway. There's a whole list of those as well. See, it's because it's a constant, not a private field. I'll try to quickly look up serialize constant unity. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. You just got to define your constants. You can't put it into the inspector, it seems, unless you make it into an enum, which is pointless. But I think maybe he's a bit too fast. F5. So once we're happy with this movement code, the next thing we want to do is be able to rotate the camera and have that affect the forward direction, of course, which it already will because of the way we're doing it. I think it will anyway. It'll be interesting to find out. This might need to be modified here. You can get rid of this. That might be not relative to the world. That could be relative to the world and not relative to the player, I mean. But you can change that. There's lots of ways of changing it. Add relative force, there we go, that's probably what we want actually. Because not only could I have done that, that never used to exist, that function. You used to have to manually do it, but then before that there was another one where you could do something like, if I remember right, transform inverse transform vector and transform vector. They would have done it for you as well. So there's all loads of convenient ways of doing it. Yes, it really is, man. And I learned a lot from the way they've done that. At one point when I was really in the flow, I was doing my own versions of that. Do you know what I mean? With my own little calculations. Another slightly advanced thing is you can create a class. Don't even link it to a game object if you don't want to. Make it override mono behavior. Call it like retro behavior or whatever you want to call it. Then make every class inherit from that instead. And every game object you ever add will have that functionality that you write into that script just by default. But that's maybe a bit advanced. That's more when you get into network gaming, you need to start doing that. Well, that's when I started doing it anyway. And I'm nowhere near that level now where I'm at. I'm still remembering how to make this bugger jump around and stuff right now. So I'm happy with the movement. And now we want to decide, do we want to add a script to the camera that checks for mouse input and moves the player, or would I rather have a reference to the camera in the player and do it from there? And I think the latter is my choice. So up here where we've got our private sort of references, actually let's get a little step up from beginner and just call it FPS cam, because we could have more than one cam for this player. And because we're adding it directly already, we don't need to create it. I could have just created it here right now. I could just go FPS cam equals, is it new component? No, add component. No. See, as I say, I'm very rusty, but it will come back to me. There's definitely a way of just, instead of get component, you do add component. I'm sure. I can't believe that actually. Oh, it needs to add it to a game object. That's it. And this game object here is a reference to our game object that we're attached to, so we don't even need to worry about that. Then you go to add component. Oh, I can't type for the heck. What's it? Then you'd go, I think you'd actually go like that with the diagonal. Should we try it? Because it's the sort of thing that Unity allows you to do with physics. Like, you wouldn't even have to worry too much about the collisions. There's no like walls or anything, is there? Is Jetpack the one that's like side view like Defender, but with a jetpack? Is that the one? Or is that the one where you go collecting fuel down little crevices? That's Moon Patrol, isn't it? It's a jetpack, yeah. I mean, the only thing I could say about that would be hard. Would be how do you like border the game off? We'd have to come up with a way of wrapping the 3D world or something, because you can't just let them go on forever. I mean, maybe we could if we procedurally generate it, but it wraps in that game, doesn't it? So we'd have to come up with a way of wrapping, which is definitely not impossible. But I've never done it on a 3D scale, and I struggled doing it on the Asteroids game I made. But in the end, I understood it. Because when you wrap a 2D game like Defender, oh, the collecting fuel one, yeah, that's awesome as well. That's even harder, I reckon. When you wrap one though, you just got to picture the screen as like a cylinder, and then if you wrap it in both angles like asteroids, it's like a it's like a sphere, pretty much. We could do that though right now. We'll come up with some way of making a guy. Basically, you just need a bit of way of adding force, and that's it, isn't it? And collision detection to see whether you've collected the fuel. I think that would be a great shout. Let's try and do it. So I'll do in the first person, and we'll add a third person camera later as well. This would be how you add it, but we're not doing that. When you add it, you'd have to give a source in here as well, like where it is. But it's a camera component. Now, this gets silly in Unity because you're actually talking about this right now. That's a game object. That's a child to that game object. And this game object contains a component called camera. Let's change this to FPS cam. It doesn't matter what, I could have called that anything I wanted. And I wouldn't have had to change any of it. And if you see this camera, this is like the beauty of Unity. Everything's a component, almost. And if we wanted to change the perspective to 2D during the game, we could just go, alright, well maybe they haven't got perspective, but you can definitely go to orthographic. There you go. It's a ball. But every other one of these fields on the right, you'll find they actually have a corresponding field in the code. Viewport. Well, they haven't actually on the camera, but most of the time you'll find they have in most game objects. These ones aren't. This is one of the oldest game objects in the entire library, so that's probably why it hasn't been changed. Normally, all of these correspond to something in the code, and they do, but they've just been named differently for some reason on this. Unless I'm probably missing something obvious. Another advanced topic I was getting into is the near plane and far plane clipping. You can add a gun, for example, and you can have, I can't even remember it myself now, but yeah, basically, how did I do it? I had a gun as a separate camera, basically. Can't quite remember. But that was the way of doing it. To do an FPS with a gun, I had a separate actual camera for the gun, with a gun always on it. Someone very clever called DM Gregory online showed me that. I mean, he obviously does it a lot better than I do. All we've got so far with me rabbiting on is a reference to our camera. And what we want to do is rotate it with the mouse movement. So we'll go back to our, I think it's in project settings, input manager. Damn it, I shouldn't have deleted those. There was probably a mouse one. So we'll add it. We'll add 2 more. You don't even need to do that. Look, let's go back to 5. Duplicate it, and it's done the same thing. And then you can rename it. Mouse X. Delete all these. Don't know about deleting them. Damn, I shouldn't have deleted those at the start. Anyway, type is mouse movement. Look. Then you do joystick axis as well. That'll be alright. Then we'll duplicate that. Alright. So there's a trick with the mouse as well. I think I used to not use this actually. The axis with the mouse. There used to be another trick I used to do. Because I think there's just another one for mouse position. Mouse position, yeah. So how I used to do it was, oh, well, complete. Horrible. So I'd have look X. And actually I think I probably want to cache that one. Hang on. I don't think we even need to do that. All we want to do is rotate the camera along the y-axis. The y-axis points straight up. So we want to rotate around that when we get a mouse position movement on the x-axis. FPS cab. Transform. There's lots of ways to rotate and it can become a right pain. They do behave slightly differently, and it's something I've a little bit forgotten about. It's something you just have to figure out. See, I think it's Euler's. I think that's what I used to use, and then you can use local to just do it locally. Can't remember which one. Oh, obviously it's the X as well. I'm not sure if it'll allow us to modify. Can I modify? Yeah, so sometimes you encounter this on Unity where you can't just modify the X axis only. So the way around that is you find out what type it is, which is vector 3. You grab the reference to that entire vector and then you modify the X on your new vector. I'm not sure if it is mouse position X I want actually. Might be mouse delta or something. Let me just check that. No. That's how I remember it, so I'm going to stick with it for now. And then of course you just put it back into the where you wanted it to be. That's only going to rotate the camera. Our walking code needs to walk forward in relation to the camera. So add relative force isn't that handy anymore. Unless we make our rotation match that of the camera here. By just going transform rulers equals. Now we've got to be careful though, because if we're looking up and down, we do not want to change any of the other. We only want to change X. I don't think we can do that. So again, I'm just going to do the same thing I did a minute ago. There, and then just put it back in. Again, there's probably lots better ways to do this, but these are ways I've come up with, just remembering from the top of my head. And also, the names for variables are terrible. Rocket parts and then fuel. Single screen. The idea itself could still translate, but it might be it might not run on my machine if we start having actual like cave formations in 3D to go and explore. But we'll see. It would be fun trying, even if we hard code the level. You know, it'd be nice to be able to procedurally generate it as well. Of course, we're a long way from that yet. We're not as far as you think from that though, because procedural generation isn't that hard, and also 3D isn't that hard. You're just talking about an array of vertices. That's all you're really talking about to get right into the nitty gritty of the 3D. And you don't even need to do that in Unity. But if you wanted to like manipulate a mesh in code, you'd need to start getting an array of vertices. That's about as advanced as I ever got. But it was pretty spectacular stuff. Some of the I wish I'd been streaming back then, because I was just plugging away, making really insane stuff. Some of it looked cool as hell, you know. But I've lost it forever now. The code's gone, the machine's gone, the login's gone, everything. As long as I've got mouse position correct here, we should be good. Yeah, we should definitely try that. I mean, at the moment, I'll be well happy if I can just get this guy running and jumping around in a semi-realistic way. Okay, well, it's done nothing. Oh, missing component. Oh, I've made the same mistake that I was talking about earlier. So I've got that error there, which said camera doesn't exist. Because it's in children. Now, I haven't showed you something else that's amazingly powerful about Unity that's similar to this, where you can locate things in your code just by adding a script to it. We've got a cube here. I could add a script called, you know, I don't know, Space Alien 1 or whatever, you know, like what's it called? Klingon. And then I could just search for all Klingons in my code. In any script, there's a thing to run. I could just search for anything that has Klingon and then call a like levitation. You know, it could have a method in it, say levitate or vanish or whatever. And it is so easy to link together. Oh, I've closed that again. What an absolute idiot. That's a good idea though. A little jetpack man would be a great little starting point. If I can invent it, if we can create him just flying around up and down with a jetpack, then we can learn about particle effects coming out of the jetpack. We could do some very basic animation where he pulls the like levers or something, you know, and I can show how to make a pose, because you could hard code a pose into a skeleton if you want. It's not hard really. So to do him like crouch sitting down. I might even try and get Maya working, because it was working. It just had a bit of a delay. Maybe I can do a tiny bit in Maya or whatever you want to call it as well, because it all links into this really. I've forgotten what I was actually trying to do. Oh, I put children and I think it's going to work now. It works, but there's some insane stuff going on here. It's definitely not right. That mouse position thing is the culprit. There was a way of getting the mouse delta, I swear. I can't remember how I did it. I don't think I used to manually cache the previous mouse position and do it that way. I'm pretty sure I used to do that, but then I can't remember what came after it. I'm almost certain it was something to do with mouse position. You know, I really am. Let's just try. Let's just try that. I'm not sure why it was rotating on the other. It shouldn't have been able to go up and down. It's going the wrong way. I've done the wrong axis. Of course, I even said it before I did it. We want to do it on the Y axis, not the X. But of course, the position of the X is what we want. But these two are Y. Because I hope that makes sense. And what the Y axis goes straight up, so we want to rotate around that axis. There's the y-axis. So that's looking straight forward now. Alright, we've got something here. The next thing to do is lock the cursor. I can't remember how you do that. Cursor lock mode. That's an enum. Cursor.lock state determines whether the hardware point. There you go. So you do that. Cursor.lock state equals cursor mode.lock. We also don't want it to be visible. This is another quirky one where we've got a static class here. You can create static classes, and we're using, or at least static fields. So we're not having to go through all this big, like, long list of, like a chain to get to where we want. It's just straight there. Sometimes I have to write it so I get the IntelliSense to help me out. It's a ball. Get set. I think I can just do. Yeah. Alright. So now we've locked the cursor in the center. I wonder if we can move now. Maybe we can't. This would just be too easy, wouldn't it? Yeah, we can't move. I think plus equals now. And that should just be equals, of course. So I should probably comment, you know. Increment. Oh, I can't comment like that anymore. Increment camera Y rotation with mouse X delta. Match up this GameObject X rotation, Y rotation with the camera. So it's very basic. He's just going to rotate, you know, and it does cause problems when you've got 3D mesh. It looks a little bit 90s the way they move, but there are ways around that with interpolation and any other method you can conceive of just to sort of interpolate between the two values. You can do that in animation, or you can do it in your movement code, or both. It's probably best to just do it on the animation. So if you were playing a fast-paced shooter game, you could rotate and shoot, and there would be no interpolation, but the character would look a little bit like it took some time to move there. But I don't know how. You have to experiment with that if you get that advanced. I think this is going to work. All I've done was change it to plus equals. It's locked in the middle, so I'm just going to get the delta. Oh no, it doesn't work. What a shame. It's annoying. I've written millions of these. I've done this about a squillion times, but I didn't think it would be any of them. It's going to be something in the input class. I could use that get axis. Probably won't work. Oh, it does. It works perfectly. It just goes way too fast. Um, do you know? I don't remember having to put like a negative, like a low size number as an off as a multiplier on that. Something I've done there is not like I used to, but it seems to work right now. If we just slow it down. Oh, hang on. We need time.delta time. That's why. Still pretty goddamn quick, but oh, and I'm not moving in the right direction. I can remember all this stuff. I can remember all it failing with all this before, and then I learnt it, and then I was able to remember it eventually. This was the exact sort of stuff I was talking about that I was forgetting. I would have thought that that set the transform correctly, so that by the time it got back to here, I wonder if just doing that above the force would help. I used to separate all these into their own functions. Sometimes I will do some of that again, but not, it doesn't need to be done right now. Oh my god, it's so fast. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not relative movement at all. Time's flown by. I've got about maybe half an hour or so. This should have the same problem. It does. I mean, I already know I could fix it by just changing this with the transform thing, where I showed you a minute ago, where you can transform vector or whatever, it's impulse, inverse transform. But there is a better way. It was almost like that had no effect, really, but see if it slows down. It's got nothing to do with the other problem. Alright, that's a manageable speed now for now. Just got to sort out the forward motion. Have one more smoke before I go. I am thinking about what to do here, I'm not just doing nothing. Just as a test, I'm going to do set rotation, transform. I thought it was a set rotation. I'm sure that was a set. I'm missing one thing. Position. No. Oh god, I don't know. Oh, so that is it. So it has to be a quaternion or whatever the hell you call it. There was another way. There was a better way. I wanted to just test that that was working. Try that in it. No difference. No. I definitely had many a frustration over this, but I thought I'd seen the back of this problem. I'm definitely not doing it correct because I did used to use direction, and then here I'm just doing like a raw vector thing. Add force. I suppose it is a direction anyway. I don't think it makes a great deal of difference. That might work. Guess I should do the same there. Oh, I'm there. Getting rid of that as well. I don't remember using them. This should work. Doesn't. I can remember having this exact issue, man. Definitely not as frustrating as that 80 screen buffering though, yeah. I should be past this problem already. Sometimes just widening that window there makes all the difference for me. I'm going to do that. Well, I guess let's try vector for a start here. Oh, no. Ah, if I could even just find my old questions. If I had my old login for like Stack Exchange, I'd have loads of examples of this. Transforms the vector x, y, z from world space to local space. I mean, that's exactly what I want. I mean, it's starting to come back to me stuff already. I reckon within a few nights of doing this regularly, I'll be right back on it. Especially if I read up, try and find some of my old notes somewhere. Because I used to write a lot of questions online. They are there somewhere. RB, but add force. I'll try add relative force, but I just can't see that doing it. I kind of feel like I haven't set the rotation properly. It does work though, because the camera rotates, doesn't it? So no. Weird how none of that made any difference. I would have thought that was a definite to work. The only other thing I can think of is trying to add force, but then when it asks for the actual value, get the camera's position. Oh, I know exactly where I went wrong. No, I don't. No, I don't. But here's one way I used to do it. I used to do transform dot forward, and that is a vector 3. So I can times that by a number. Go on. Yeah, that's what I used to do. And forward used to always exist, but there was no backwards or left or right, so you had to work out a way of making right. But I believe I can just do transform dot right now, yeah, times h times excel. Right, I was making a mountain out of that molehill, wasn't I was going through the same issues that I had before. So that's not a relative force, but let's assume the camera does relate it, rotate. Oh, it is relative because it's forward there. I think that's going to be all good. Finally, please. No, I cheated then because I pressed left and right. I don't think this is right either. That worked. No, it didn't. Felt like it did. That's flipping insane. Can't remember this. It's annoying. In world space. Yeah, in world space. Turns a normalized vector representing. So hang on. Debug dot log. What was it called? It's covering it up. Oh my god, my brain's gone. I was just doing something then. Oh yeah. Transform forward plus transform forward. Let's try that out. So it should show us at the bottom what the forward. It never changes. It's always 1.0. So it's not relative to where I'm facing. It's just shorthand for writing vector 3 0 0 1. So I really would have thought add relative force would have done it. But I thought I already tried that. I don't need to worry about the sideways right now. Nope. What's the point in that relative force then? I do not know. But ah, I know what I've done. I know what I've done. It's not transform.forward. There's another one you can get. GameObject.forward. Or RB. No. Oh, maybe I'm wrong actually. Bloody hell. It's as simple as writing that, but it's just writing something different. Try that. What? I can only do that multi-line comments like that. It's so weird. Still not. What the flip? Right. We can delete that. Well, no, we can't. We don't need to delete it. That might do it. Yeah, we have it. Thank God for that. I mean, it feels pretty crappy still, the movement. Like, the drag is not right and this impulsing. Oh, it's because there's no left-right move. I was trying to figure out why I can move left and right. Good shout, Moz. I think they probably have. That's the funny thing I was saying earlier. Like you spend ages doing this, and then you figure out there's this one command like already there, as simple as what you've just written. Like, I mean, I'm sure that's not needed. I got this down to not doing that when I was doing it before. But that's one way of doing it anyway. All I've done is really the same thing, based it on the camera forward vector. So I can pretty much copy that in there and just change it to right and then H. Two right, well hey, finally. Oh, that's the funny thing, I think I made quicker progress when I jumped into assembly. I instantly was able to get the sprites up and running. I felt like progress. Well, there's a bit of like, it's not delay, but it's like, yeah, it's not enough momentum or something to move yourself sometimes. Very strange movement so far. It's almost like you're a sort of ball. So I need to change up them figures, but other than that, we've made a tiny bit of progress. Jumping is actually quite complicated. There's no like jump method in Unity. They have created a character you can just download with all these methods implemented for you. But like I say, we'll make our own so we understand it better. And it will end up being simpler in the long run. Theirs is quite over the top. Some of the code it goes on and on. Jetpack, innit? Forget jump for now. We'll make a jetpack game. Maybe I should add a third person camera as well. See, maybe I've done this wrong. Maybe I should have rotated the player and then lined the FPS camera rotation up with the rotation. Done it the other way around. Probably will do that later. Probably convert that. Because then when we had a third person camera out, we're not relying on the FPS cam being activated. We could just deactivate it. It gets way more complicated in a good way than this, because you can add scripts to the camera that can do things, you know, you can add scripts everywhere. Obviously, you don't even need a game. You can add scripts that aren't even in a game object if you really want. Static scripts and stuff. Database. You can do anything in this game engine, I swear. What can I do in the remaining 15-20 minutes? Oh, I've closed it again. What an idiot. I mean, raycasting is a real interesting thing, but I might struggle to finish that in 20 minutes. It used to only take me that time to do. But if I add another cube, but this time we'll make it an actual game object that we can pick up. It's so slow. Move that down, now it's a table. And then I'll put something on the table. You can press F and it will zoom in to that object. I like to make sure it's selected in there. Sometimes you end up zooming in on the wrong thing and it gets annoying. I'll create another material real quick. we'll have like a red, completely matte red carpeted object. Sat there looking like some sort of little Christmas present. Right. So we want this to be able to be grabbable. So we'll make a script for that. Well, I've got my FPS player there, but we'll also have one called we'll just call it game for now. I'd probably call this like the name of the game I was making, this folder. And it would contain like scripts mainly. But also other things. Just call it pickup. So pickup is like an object that can be picked up. That's what I'm calling that. And all I have to do is give that to every one of those. I think you can even just drag it in there like that. No, that didn't work. Oh, it did work. I was expecting it to be at the bottom. So you can now look for anything that contains a pickup script. It doesn't even have to have anything in the script. It could be completely empty. I mean, I'm not even sure it needs that, but I'm going to leave that there so it is a mono behavior, just in case that's needed. Then in my player, this is where I might run out of time showing this. I hope I don't. If I'm quick, I don't. You can have a game object. Call that object in view. And this looks like I'm creating a variable there. And I could just do that if I wanted to. But what I'm actually going to do is create, I forget what they call these, but it's basically like a function. It'll return a game object if the one is in view. There's a better way of doing it, and I've completely forgot, but basically you would have this as a bool, and then you'd have it like that, and inside that you can actually have an output, and I've forgotten completely how to do it. You can have an out parameter here, call it hit. Raycast hit. So what will happen is, because I've specified that that's an out, when I run some code here, there's a function built into Unity that will fill that out with the object that is hit with the ray. I can't remember what you need to make a ray, so let's just try physics, Raycast. Oh, you used to be able to cycle through there up and down, but you can't anymore. That one had an output of a hit info and a ray. So I think that's what I'm going to use. So the one I'm going to use is that. I can't even remember how to make a bloody new ray, because you can't just go new ray like you can in most C#. It doesn't work in Unity. There's an easier way of doing this. I've just forgotten. Damn it. I've got a little bit of time. Let me try and load the docs for Ray. I mean, there is a way of doing it without creating an array. Oh, I think you just don't put the new keyword. Docs aren't very good on this thing because it doesn't even show you what it's expecting. That won't be good enough because it needs to have an origin and a length and a direction. But there. Why can't I see that when I hover over that? Clearly doing this wrong. So the origin will be FPS cam dot transform dot position, and the direction will be FPS cam dot forward transform dot forward. See, that looks like it works, but I'm pretty sure you can't do that in Unity. This is a bool Raycast, so we can use if on it and it will return true or false if it hits something. So we can put down here, just to shut up this error, return false, and then here we'll return true. What's going on with hit? Maybe you don't need that there. Which was the one that had... Oh, so it didn't even need a distance, it was just ray and then hit. I'm really not sure why it's not liking that. It wants to select a 3. It's something to do with the way I've done that ray, I think. Oh, it's still going about that. This will be the one. Of course we can use all of them. I'm sure I used to create the ray beforehand, just for the convenience. Out hit. There we go. Finally. That's going to return if it hits anything. What I used to do is change that to GameObject. Turn void. No? Turn null, is it? I'm sure I used to do that. Yeah, return null. Then here, GameObject, oh, GameObject. So I'm creating a new GameObject temporarily. G equals, well, let's be obvious. Hit object. If we're going to do that, the object hit equals hit dot GameObject. Hit. This is another weird one. Hit dot transform dot GameObject. Return the object hit. So now we've got, it'll hit anything and it'll return it, but we want to check first. Just wondering whether to do it before or after. If hit.transform.GameObject.getComponent pickup is not equal to no. In fact, I don't think you need that. So if it has a pickup, return the object hit. If not, return no. So now, just as a way of, or maybe let's just do something a bit more proper, even though I literally have only got 10 minutes or less than that. Normally I think I'd have a method on here, public, void, kill or collect pickup. Kill might be another one in a minute that this one automatically calls. Then you should probably do this in a start method. Get components quite slow. You shouldn't do that like during gameplay, if you know what I mean. You should try and control when this is done. I could have done get component and cached it right when this pickup was created at the game time. Mesh renderer enabled equals false. That'll do for now. I mean, that's still going to be there with a collider and everything. It won't be any good, you know. It's not. It's just to test this, but whether it works. It should vanish. It might say it can't find mesh renderer. I remember there's some weird thing about doing that as well. But let's try it. So we've added quite a lot there. We've added a view ray, which collides with the first thing it sees. It checks, is it a pickup? If it is, it returns the pickup as a game object reference, or as a new game object. And if not, it returns null. Just realised I totally. Oh no. I can't seem to look up and down. Oh, we haven't implemented that yet. That's funny. So no, it's X this time. Mouse Y. Normally you'd put a cap here. You know, you wouldn't allow them to fully rotate it like that. Hopefully that's going to let us just rotate it a bit. Yeah, it does. It's inverted for some reason, but I don't know. I shouldn't have even had to click. I don't know what I was clicking. Oh, I'm thick or something. It's because I'm running low on time. I haven't called this method or this. I've confused the issue by making that it's like not a method. There's a name for these. I can't remember what they are. And it's even telling me I should have a capital R. I think, yeah, naming rule convention. Tough luck. I'm going to start a new project soon anyway, so I've been naming. I've been in weird languages. So all I want to really do is check. Well, this will be null if there's nothing there, so we can just do it every frame. If object in view. Oh, hang on. Is not equal to null. That'll do. I wonder, do I even need that? Yes, I do. Okay. So in other words, I need that there as well. If object in view is not equal to null, object in view dot collect dot get, what the hell? Oh, same error. I knew that one would work though, because it's get component pickup collect pickup. There we go. And the beauty of it is you can start passing parameters around that as well. I've accessed that just through a ray coming out of the camera. I'm able to have full control over the pickup itself. Of course, this is a not robust code because at the moment, object in view, we're assuming that it's a pickup. There's ways of like abstracting it many layers so that it could be anything that you're touching, and then you have code that just does it. I reckon this might work now. Oh, more waiting. I don't think it's going to handle Maya very well. It won't even handle this when we've got stuff in there. I mean, oh, it's already touched. See, normally you put a distance of only like 1 or 2 meters, but it's collected it. I'd also normally do that inside a mouse click, for example. So if they press the mouse button down at that moment, 0 means button 1, or left mouse button. There we go. And then the ray, I believe we can just add a distance at the end here. Layer mask is something we'll need to look at as well soon, so that you don't. Well, this kind of gets around that, what I've just showed you. Max distance. Might as well be a public float. View distance. View ray distance. And then assuming this works, that'll be the time for me to go. Alright, so we can see the object. Oh, it's loading. Oh god, something's messed up here when I loaded that. There we go. I can't grab it from here. Or here. As soon as I pressed the mouse button, it went perfectly. So that's a good start. We can make some little games with that alone. Adventure games. I mean, you've got to come up with some clever way of making a dialogue scheme to do adventure games. I've tried them. It's not easy to come up with a sort of scalable way of making an adventure game. And I've done it before where I could make interactive characters, but it didn't scale up very well the way I done it. Well, I did. Then in the end, I made one with prefabs where you could just fill in a load of conversation, so it'd be sort of basic, but it did work and it was easy to reproduce. That's not bad for. Oh no, we messed up. This is what I was going about clamping the values of the rotation. I've messed up there completely somehow. You can get back that if you rotate it the right way. We'll clamp them. But as you can see, you can make some real progress real quick in this game engine. And that was just a minor look at it. What next then? Well, I mean, I may stick with this project and I'll rename them. We've got to fix the movement, it's a little bit horrible. The very first thing I'm going to do before I even go is invert the mouse on Y. Put a minus there. In fact, yeah, let's put a minus there. It makes more sense to me. Oh, that feels a lot better already. Yeah, the movement code is horrible right now. If you're going full speed, it doesn't let you turn until you're at least not full speed anymore. It doesn't let you move left or right, I should say. But yeah, that was our first look at Unity. Made quite a lot of progress. Definitely will be revisiting it now I know it works on my PC, streaming. Can't think what I'll do for the next session, but it'll probably be this evening when I get home from work. I have something in mind. Jetpack, isn't it? That's the next one. Add that sort of function. Then we'll have to add some sort of generating star field.